Okay, picture the scene. It's not a library. It's not, some dusty lecture hall with elbow patches and chalk dust floating in the sunbeams.
No, not at all.
It is the street. It's the messy, loud, chaotic intersection of everyday life. You've got cars honking, people rushing to work, the smell of exhaust, and burnt coffee in the air.
Total sensory overload.
Right, and standing right in the middle of that intersection, effectively stopping traffic, is a question.
A question that sounds at first blush like a riddle you'd find inside a fortune cookie. Or maybe something a smart aleck kid asks on a playground to trip up their Sunday school teacher.
Exactly. It's fast, it's snappy, and it feels like a trap. You go up to someone, maybe they're just waiting for the bus, checking their watch, and you ask them, can God make a rock so heavy that he can't lift it?
The classic omnipotence paradox. It's the philosophical equivalent of a Chinese finger trap. The more you struggle, the tighter it gets.
Right, and you watch people freeze. You can literally see the gears grinding behind their eyes. Because the logic seems so airtight, doesn't it? It feels binary.
Completely, A or B.
If they say, yes, he can make the stone, then, well, suddenly there is a stone he can't lift.
Yeah.
So he's not all-powerful. He just failed the lifting test.
And on the flip side, if they say, no, he can't make the stone, then there is a limit to his creative power. He cannot create this specific object.
So again, he is not all-powerful. He failed the creating test.
Either way, omnipotence seems to crumble.
It is a deadlock.
Yep.
It's a linguistic headlock. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. And today, on the deep dive, we are treating this not just as a philosophical parlor trick to annoy your friends with, but as a crime scene.
A crime scene. That's a bit dramatic, isn't it?
I don't think so. I mean, think about what's at stake here. The victim isn't a person. The victim is logic itself, or at least our understanding of it.
Okay, I can see that.
The suspect is theism, the very idea of a perfect, limitless God. And the evidence is piling up on the detective's board. We have this fascinating source material today, J.R. Ahmed's work, The Quranic Resolution of Divine Attribute Paradoxes, and we're going to use it to sift through this crime scene.
So we're the intellectual detectives.
We are, because on the surface, looking at the chalk outline on the pavement, it looks really bad for the suspect.
It certainly presents a significant challenge. And you're right to frame it this way, because this is what philosophers call an internal critique. It's not asking for physical evidence of God. It's not carbon dating or looking for fossils or scanning the sky for radio waves.
No.
None of that. It's asking if the definition of God holds water, if the concept itself is broken from the inside out.
Exactly. So let's look at the board. I'm picturing a cork board with index cards. We have three main pieces of evidence penned up here with red string connecting them. Evidence A, God is all-powerful, omnipotent.
Check.
Evidence B, God is all-knowing, omniscient.
Yeah.
Vitamin C, God is all-good, omnibenevolent. And then the smoking gun, the thing that supposedly makes those three statements impossible to hold together without exploding.
The existence of evil, or in our first case, the existence of logical limits.
Right. It feels like a trap, because it is a trap. The source material we are looking at today calls this logic's sharp crucible. I love that phrase.
Very evocative.
It implies heat, pressure, and a stripping away of impurities. So the mission for this deep dive is pretty specific. We are going to start with that heavy, clunky stone of paradox, the idea that God's attributes are crashing into each other like cars in an intersection.
And we are going to try to move toward what the source calls the symphony.
The symphony. I like the sound of that.
Which is a move from incoherence to a unified, holistic understanding of the divine. And I think what's fascinating here is that J.R. Ahmed argues that the detectives, the skeptics, and honestly even some believers are botching the investigation because they're using the wrong tools.
What do you mean wrong tools?
They're trying to measure the ocean with a ruler. The tools are too small for the job.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we get to the symphony,
Yeah.
before we get to the resolution and the beautiful music, we have to deal with the noise.
The dissonance.
The dissonance. We have to deal with the prosecution's case. And honestly, it's a strong case. When you read the opening chapter of Ahmed's book, he lays out the incoherence of divine attributes, and he doesn't pull any punches. He quotes the atheist critique as a piercing, pointed blade.
It is sharp, and it's most famously codified by a philosopher named J.L. Mackie. It's often called the trilemma.
The trilemma. Three lemmas. Three propositions. Let's put them on the table nice and slow so we can see where the wires cross. Proposition 1. God is omnipotent. He has the power to do anything.
Check. That's the standard definition.
Proposition 2. God is omniscient. He knows everything. Past, present, future, Every atom, every thought, every potential outcome.
Check. No surprises there.
Proposition 3.
Yeah.
God is omnibenevolent. He's perfectly good. He desires the good.
And the hidden premise that ties this all together, a good being eliminates evil as far as it can.
Say more about that. That's
Mm.
crucial.
Well, if you are good and you see a fire and you have a hose, you put out the fire. It's not enough to just want the fire to go out. If you stand there and watch it burn while holding the hose, you aren't good. You're either a coward or a monster.
Right. And then look out the window.
Yeah.
Or just turn on the news. Or think about a time you stubbed your toe, multiplied by 1 billion. Think about pediatric oncology wards. Think about natural disasters wiping out villages. Evil exists. Suffering exists. The source describes it as agony's raw scream.
Yeah.
That is not abstract philosophy. That is real. That is visceral.
It is very real. And the argument is that if God knows about the suffering, because he's omniscient, and he has the power to stop it because he's omnipotent,
And he wants to stop it.
because he's omnibenevolent, then the suffering shouldn't exist. But it does.
Right.
Therefore, God, at least this definition of God, cannot exist.
It's like a 3-legged stool.
Yeah.
And the atheist argument just kicks one leg out. They say pick one.
You can't have all three.
Either he's not powerful enough to stop it, so he's weak, he doesn't know about it, so he's ignorant. Or, this is the dark one, he doesn't care.
He's not actually good.
He's malevolent, or at best indifferent. And any of those options destroys the classical concept of God.
And that is where the incoherence charge comes from. It claims that these attributes, power, knowledge, goodness, are mutually exclusive in our universe. You can have a nice God who is weak, you can have a powerful God who is mean, but you can't have it all. The math doesn't add up.
The source uses this really evocative image to describe how this critique works. It says the skeptics are treating these attributes like gems on a cold floor.
I remember that line. It's a great metaphor.
I was trying to visualize that. You know, you take a diamond, a ruby, and a sapphire, you take them out of the setting, out of the crown, you just toss them on the concrete. They're just sitting there, separate and cold.
That's a crucial metaphor. When you isolate them, they become hard, separate objects.
Yeah.
Mechanical gears. And the argument is that these gears are jamming.
Jamming? How so?
The power gear is grinding against the mercy gear. If the power gear turns, the mercy gear must stop the suffering. If it doesn't, the machine is broken. There's an internal contradiction in the design.
And it's not just the problem of evil, it's the stone paradox too. It's the exact same mechanism. You isolate power, you put it on the cold floor, you stare at it with a microscope and say, okay, power means doing anything.
Anything. No limits. The absolute unqualified ability to do, well, anything.
And then you say, can power defeat itself? Can it create a weight it cannot lift? If you treat power as this unattached, raw force, you run into a wall. It feels like the definition of God is self-destructing.
Like a computer program stuck in an infinite loop. Error, contradiction detected.
That's the shutdown.
You do, and this is where the prosecution rests. They look at the board, they see the contradictions, they hear the grinding gears, and they say it's incoherent. The definition is flawed. The suspect doesn't exist.
It feels airtight. I mean, logic is logic, right?
Yeah.
If A equals B and B equals C, I feel like if I'm sitting in the jury box listening to this prosecution, I'm nodding along.
Me too.
I'm thinking, yeah, you can't have it both ways. It seems like a slam dunk case.
But this is where J.R. Ahmed suggests we pause. Because the investigation has made a fundamental error, it has assumed that we know what those words mean.
What words? God. Evil.
Simpler than that, power, possible, thing.
Okay, you're getting cryptic on me. Thing.
Oh, yeah.
I know what thing is. This microphone's a thing. My coffee cup is a thing. The chair I'm sitting on is a thing.
Is it? Let's look at the defense. This is where the analysis shifts the ground beneath us. The source calls this the linguistic tangle.
Linguistic tangle. Like a knot.
Exactly. A knot in our grammar, not in God's nature. Let's go back to the stone. Can God create a stone so heavy he cannot lift it? The source argues that this isn't a question about physics. It's not about gravity or muscle mass or density.
So it's not about lifting at all.
It's a question about language.
Explain. How is a rock a language problem? It feels pretty solid to me.
The source references the concept of square circles.
Square circles. Okay, I've heard this before, but walk me through it. It's one of those classic philosophical tools.
It is. So let me ask you, can God create a square circle?
Well, he's all-powerful. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that the point of being God? Breaking the rules? Doing the impossible? People talk about miracles.
But try to draw it in your head right now. A shape that is simultaneously a square with 4 corners and equal sides and a circle with no corners and a continuous curve.
Okay, I'm trying. I picture a square, then I try to round the corners, but then it's not a square anymore.
It becomes an oval or a squircle.
Right, a squircle. It's not both. I picture a circle and I try to add corners and it just becomes a square. They cancel each other out. My brain just, it can't hold them both at the same time.
They can't, because it's not just impossible physically, it's impossible logically. It's a contradiction in terms. A square circle isn't a thing that is hard to make.
It's a non-thing.
It is a non-thing. It is a set of words that cancel each other out. It's like asking, can God cook a smell that is the color blue? Or can God create a married bachelor?
Married bachelor. I like that one. It's so clean. By definition, a bachelor is unmarried.
So if I ask God to make a married bachelor, I'm not actually asking him to do anything. I'm just making noise with my mouth. I'm squelching words together.
I'm speaking gibberish.
Precisely. You are squelching words together, square and circle, married and bachelor, and pretending they describe a task. But they don't. They describe nothingness. The source argues that the phrase, a stone God cannot lift, is the exact same thing.
Whoa. Okay, unpack that. How is stone God cannot lift the same as a married bachelor?
Because God is defined as the being with infinite power. That's the premise we started with.
Right, omnipotent.
And a stone he cannot lift implies a limit on that power. It's a description of a finite power.
I see. So the question actually translates to,
can the being with infinite power create a situation where he does not have infinite power?
it's asking, can God be not God?
Yes. Or can God's power defeat God's power? It creates a linguistic knot. The source is very clear on this. Omnipotence, in the Quranic and classical theological view, covers all logically possible things.
All logically possible things. That's a key distinction. So it's not a cheat, it's a clarification of the term.
Exactly. So God can create a galaxy, he can create a mosquito, he can create life, he can resurrect the dead. These are all things that can exist. They are logically coherent concepts.
But he cannot create a square circle because a square circle isn't a thing to be created. It's a meaningless string of words.
Exactly. God's power encompasses things, not non-things or absurdities. The source puts it beautifully. A stone he can't lift, a square circle's meaningless plea are linguistic tangles for human eyes to see.
So the defense here is basically, Your Honor, the prosecution is speaking gibberish. The central piece of evidence is inadmissible because it's nonsense.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
This brings in Ludwig Wittgenstein.
The philosopher. I remember reading him in college and mostly being confused. Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus was not light reading.
You and everyone else. But the source mentions him for a reason. Wittgenstein argued that the limits of our language are the limits of our world.
Whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent.
That's the one. When we try to talk about the infinite, about God using language designed for the finite like stones and lifting and weight, we run into walls. We start playing what he called language games that don't apply to the reality we are discussing.
It's like trying to download the entire internet onto a floppy disk. The disk just errors out. The error isn't in the internet, it's in the disk. The storage medium is too small for the data.
That's a great analogy. The paradox isn't a flaw in God's nature. It's a glitch in human grammar. We are taking concepts that apply to us. I can lift 50 pounds, but I can't lift 500, and projecting them onto a being who doesn't have muscles or mass or limits.
But wait, there's a distinction in the source I want to hit on, something about essential versus accidental power.
Yes, this is important.
Because I feel like someone listening might say, well, that sounds like a cop-out. You're just redefining power to make God win. You're moving the goalposts so the ball always goes in.
It's not moving the goalposts, it's defining what the goalposts are made of. The source discusses the difference between a being who has power and a being who is power.
Okay, what's the difference?
If I have power, say I'm an Olympic weightlifter, I can lose it. I can get sick. I can get old. I can decide to stop lifting. My power is accidental. It's an attribute attached to me, but it's not me.
Right, you are you. The muscles are an accessory. You could lose them and still be you.
But for God, the Quranic argument is that he is essential power. His power is his nature. It's what he is. He cannot do something that negates his own nature any more than a triangle can have 4 sides.
So he can't not be powerful because power is his essence.
Exactly. He cannot cease to be God. So asking, can God create a stone he can't lift, is asking, can God overpower his own essence? The answer is no, not because he's weak, but because he is consistent. He is truth. His nature is not self-contradictory.
Okay, I'm starting to see the defense taking shape.
Right.
The stone isn't a heavy rock. It's a heavy linguistic error. It's a category mistake.
Right.
But we still have those gems on the cold floor. We still have the issue of how these attributes fit together. We've handled the power definition. We've said it doesn't include doing the logically impossible. What about the clash? What about the machine jamming?
The problem of evil.
Yeah. Because if I have power and I have mercy, I'm still two things. I have two gears inside me. And those two things can fight. I can want to be merciful, but also want to be powerful, and those can be in conflict.
They can, and this is where we move from the courtroom to the observatory. We need to look at the structure of the suspect himself. This is the core concept of the episode, divine simplicity.
Divine simplicity. Now, when I hear simple, I think basic. Like 2 + 2 = 4 is simple, or a ham sandwich is simple, or instructions for boiling an egg.
Right, uncomplicated.
But that's not what we're talking about here, is it? We're not saying God is basic.
No, absolutely not. In theology and philosophy, simple means not composite. It means made of one thing. It means no parts.
No parts. That is hard to wrap my head around. Everything I know has parts. This microphone has a mesh screen, a diaphragm, a circuit board. My body has organs. A thought has components.
Think about a car. A car is composite. It has an engine, wheels, a chassis, a steering wheel, a transmission. You can take the wheels off and you still have the engine. The parts are distinct and separable.
Right. And they can conflict. The brakes can fight the engine. If I slam on the brakes and the gas at the same time, the car tears itself apart. The car screams. You get that horrible smell of burning something.
Exactly. Because the braking system and the acceleration system are two different things, two different parts with opposing functions. Now think about the Greek gods. Zeus.
Okay, Zeus.
He has moods, he has a body, he has a history, he has parents, he is composite. He can be conflicted. He can want two things at once. He can be torn between duty and desire. He's a mess of parts.
A very powerful, dysfunctional mess.
But the Quranic concept of God Allah is rooted in tawhid, absolute oneness.
Oneness. So no parts, no power module and mercy module and justice module, all plugged into a divine motherboard.
No parts. This is the game changer. The source references Surah Al-Ikhlas. Say, He is Allah the One, nor is there to Him any equivalent. This isn't just saying there is only one God in terms of number, like there is a second one.
It's not just a quantity.
It's saying God is one in His essence. He is indivisible, a seamless whole.
So He doesn't have a mercy part and a power part and a knowledge part that are glued together.
Precisely. And this destroys the incoherence argument. Remember the gems on the cold floor?
Yeah. The ruby, the diamond, the sapphire, sitting there separately.
The atheist critique relies on those gems being separate. It relies on saying, hey, your power gem is scratching your mercy gem, but divine simplicity says there are no separate gems. There is only the divine reality.
Whoa. Okay, slow down. If there are no separate attributes, then what are power and mercy? I mean, we use different words for them. We see them differently in the world. Are you saying they are illusions? That they aren't real?
Not at all. They are very real. But they are our perception of a unified reality. The source uses a brilliant analogy here, the prism.
The prism. Okay, walk me through it. I love a good physics analogy.
Imagine a beam of pure white light hitting a prism. What happens?
It refracts. It splits into a rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue. The Pink Floyd album cover is beautiful.
Right. Now, if you are standing inside the prism or on the wall where the rainbow lands, you see red as distinct from blue. You can say red is here and blue is there. You can measure their wavelengths. They look different. They act different. Red is warm, blue is cool.
Sure. Red light behaves differently than ultraviolet. They have different energies, different properties.
But trace those colors back to the source. Before they hit the prism, what are they?
They are just light. They are one thing, white light. They are all contained in the one beam. The separation is an effect of the prism, not a property of the light itself.
Exactly. The source argues that we are the prism. Human language, human perception, the human mind. We break the divine reality into colors we can understand.
So when we see God's actions in the world,
We say God is powerful because we see His effect on the physical world, the movement of planets, the creation of stars. That's the red light we're perceiving. We say God is merciful because we see His blessings, rain, healing, love. That's the blue light we're perceiving.
but in His essence, before the prism of our minds gets a hold of it.
In His essence, the red and the blue are one. His power is His knowledge, which is His mercy. They are not separate gears. They are a single, unified reality.
That is trippy. So at the source, it's all just one white light of perfection. And what we call attributes are just the different ways that one perfection interacts with our limited composite world.
Yes. And if it's one unified essence, there can be no internal friction. You can't have a contradiction within a singularity. The power cannot fight the mercy because they are the same reality viewed from different angles. A thing cannot contradict itself.
So the clash that Mackie and the atheists are pointing out,
Yeah.
that clanging noise of the gears jamming.
It's the sound of the prism cracking, not the light failing. They are finding contradictions in their own composite model of God, a straw man God made of parts.
So they built a Frankenstein monster.
They built a Frankenstein monster out of theological terms and then complained that it walked funny. But that model doesn't match the Quranic definition of the simple, unified God.
Okay, I'm with you on the metaphysics. I love the prism analogy. It's very elegant. It makes sense that if God is infinite and simple, our labels are just sticky notes we put on a skyscraper. We're labeling the windows, but the building is one piece.
It's a very good way to put it.
But, and you knew there was a but coming.
The problem of evil. It always comes back to the real world.
The problem of evil. We could talk about chrisms and white light and linguistic knots all day long. But if I'm in a hospital room watching someone suffer, the logic feels cold. It feels sterile.
It does.
The atheist argument isn't just logical, it's emotional. It says, if that white light is so perfect, why is it casting such a dark shadow?
You are absolutely right to push back on this, and the source acknowledges this. It says, okay, the logic holds God isn't a contradiction, but the pain is still real. The source doesn't dismiss the pain. It doesn't say suffering is an illusion.
So how does J.R. Ahmed resolve the gap between a perfect, simple God and a world full of agony? Because divine simplicity is a great answer for a philosopher sitting in an armchair, but it's a tough answer for a grieving parent.
By introducing the missing variable. Remember our equation. Power plus knowledge plus goodness is paradox.
Yeah, that was the prosecution's case.
The source says we left out a crucial name, a crucial aspect of the light. Al-Hakim.
Al-Hakim, the all-wise.
Wisdom. Wisdom is the bridge. The source argues that the problem isn't ontological meaning. It's not about God's nature being broken. It's epistemological.
That's a $10 word. Epistemological. That means it's about what we know, or what we can know. The limits of human knowledge.
Correct. It's the finite snapshot problem. Imagine you are watching a movie, but you only see one single frame. And in that frame, you see a man violently pushing a child to the ground.
That looks bad. It looks like evil. If I take that photo to court, that man is going to jail. I'd testify against him myself. It's an open and shut case of assault.
It does. It looks cruel and senseless. But what if you play the whole scene? What if you see that a car was speeding toward the child and the man pushed them out of the way to save their life?
Then the push wasn't evil. It was actually an act of mercy. It was wise. It was necessary. The harm of the push was far less than the harm of being hit by the car.
The act itself was identical in both scenarios. The push was a push. But the context, the wisdom of the bigger picture, completely changes its moral character.
But you couldn't know that from the snapshot. You lack the context. You lack the wisdom of the bigger picture.
So their argument is that we as humans are stuck in the snapshot.
We are stuck in the snapshot. We live in the snapshot. We see the pain of the push, but we don't see the speeding car. We feel the immediate suffering, but we don't see the cosmic context in which it occurs.
The source quotes Surah 67.2, "He who created death and life that he may test you." The concept here is the crucible.
A crucible. That's a vessel used for melting and purifying metal. It gets incredibly hot. It's destructive in a way. It burns off everything that isn't gold.
It is. It's a painful process. But the purpose isn't destruction, it's refinement. The source argues that suffering isn't a random glitch. It's a mechanism for growth, spiritual lessons, unveiling deeper truths.
So if life were perfectly comfortable, a paradise with no friction, there would be no moral growth.
No resistance training for the soul.
Exactly. How can you be brave if you're never afraid? How can you be patient if you never have to wait? How can you be compassionate if no one is hurting? You can't. Those virtues are forged in the crucible.
So the argument is that the goodness God is aiming for isn't just comfort, it's character. It's a higher order good.
Yes. This is often called the soul-making theodicy. The idea is that this world is a factory for making souls, and the machinery is sometimes heavy and loud and dangerous.
And what about evil that doesn't seem to build character? What about senseless evil?
The source addresses this too. Evil in this view isn't a rival creator fighting God. It's often the result of human free will, what the source calls a breezy open door. God gave us the freedom to choose, and sometimes we choose terribly. The resulting evil is on us, not him.
And the rest, natural disasters, disease.
That falls under the snapshot problem, a necessary contrast to reveal the good, or a piece of a causal chain we are simply too limited to understand.
But isn't that, I don't know, convenient? Oh, you just don't understand the plan. It feels like a get-out-of-jail-free card for God. I work in mysterious ways. I feel like that's the oldest excuse in the book.
It can feel that way. I'll grant you that. It can feel like a hand wave.
It can feel that way if you view God as a peer, as someone just a bit smarter than us, like a CEO who won't explain the layoffs. But if you accept the premise of the white light, that God is infinite, then the gap between his wisdom and our logic isn't a small step, it's an ocean.
It's not just that he knows more facts than us. His very mode of knowing is different.
It's the difference between a toddler understanding quantum physics and God understanding the universe. It's not a gap of degree, it's a gap of kind. So it's not that there is no reason for the suffering, it's that the reason is too big for the snapshot.
Right. And here's where wisdom integrates the attributes. The source explains. Power is tempered by mercy, and mercy is guided by wisdom. You cannot judge the power attribute without seeing the wisdom behind it.
They're not separate dials you can turn up and down.
So if God doesn't stop a specific tragedy, it's not because he lacks the power. He can't lift the stone. And it's not because he lacks the mercy. He doesn't care. It's because his wisdom sees a causality, a ripple effect across all of time and space that we cannot see.
And that wisdom is integrated into the other attributes. It's not separate. Remember the prism. His wisdom is his mercy. Even the pushing the child moment, the act that looked violent, was, in its essence, an act of salvation. The source argues that trusting Al-Hakim allows you to trust Ar-Rahman, the merciful, even when the world looks dark.
This brings us to the final movement of our deep dive. We've gone from the jagged rocks of the stone paradox to the white light of simplicity, and then through the crucible of suffering. Now let's talk about the symphony, because the Force ends on this really beautiful note about holistic glory.
The symphony, it's the perfect metaphor. It takes us away from the mechanical gears and into something organic, alive.
The source lists the best names. Al-Asma Osna. We have Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, Al-Adl, the just, Al-Qadir, the all-powerful.
And in the atheist critique, in the detective's office, we treated these like suspects in a lineup. We tried to pit them against each other. Hey, Justice, Mercy says you're lying.
Hey, power, can you beat up logic? Can you lift the rock? We were interrogating them one by one under a harsh light.
Laughs, right. But the Quranic view, specifically referenced in Surah 59, verses 22-24, presents them as a circle of coherence.
A circle, not a lineup. What's the difference?
Think about a symphony orchestra. You have the percussion section, power. You have the string section, mercy. You have the woodwinds, knowledge. You have the conductor, wisdom.
Okay, I'm with you.
If you isolate the percussion, if you just listen to the timpani drums pounding for an hour, it's just noise, it's aggressive, it might even seem violent.
It would give you a headache, it would feel chaotic, you'd want to leave the concert hall, you'd say, this is terrible music.
But if you blend it with the strings, if the drums swell exactly when the violins soar,
it becomes depth, it becomes resonance, it becomes majesty. The power of the drums supports the beauty of the violins. They aren't fighting, they are cooperating to create something bigger than either of them.
Exactly. The source is saying that when we look at the world and see contradictions, we are just standing too close to the drums. We are hearing the boom and missing the melody. We've isolated one instrument and are judging the entire symphony based on it.
So the synthesis argument is that you cannot isolate one name. You can't just talk about God's power without simultaneously talking about his mercy and his wisdom.
No. If you take omnipotence out of the circle, you turn God into a brute force, a chaotic monster who just smashes things because he can. If you take mercy out, you get a tyrant. If you take justice out, you get a chaotic, permissive pushover who lets evil run rampant.
But together
they form the best names, a holistic glory. The music. Logic. True logic isn't a cage God is trapped in. Logic is a reflection of God's consistency. Al-Haq, the truth.
So the reason the universe follows laws, the reason A equals A, is because God is constant. He isn't fighting himself. The symphony is coherent.
It is. The logic of the transcendent is harmony, not contradiction.
So bringing it all back to the beginning, the guy in the street, the question, can God make a rock so heavy he can't lift it?
We can now look at that question and smile.
Because the stone isn't too heavy.
No, the stone doesn't exist. It's a phantom made of bad grammar.
The question was just nonsense.
It was a square circle, a linguistic knot. And the fact that we can't tie God up in that knot isn't a proof of his absence. It's a proof of his transcendence. He is too big for our grammar. He is the composer of the symphony, and we are trying to judge him by the rules of a kazoo.
This has been a wild ride. We started with a crime scene, a chalk outline on the pavement.
We did.
We went through a physics lesson with a prism. We debated the nature of suffering in the crucible. And we ended up at a symphony.
And that is the journey of the deep dive. It's realizing that sometimes the problem isn't the answer. The problem is the question.
So what's the takeaway here? If I'm listening to this and I'm driving to work or doing dishes, what do I hold on to? Because this was high-level stuff. We talked about tawhid and Wittgenstein.
I think the takeaway is about the lens. We started as intellectual detectives looking for cracks in the logic of the divine. We were holding a magnifying glass up to God.
But we realized the cracks were in the glass itself. The lens was flawed.
Exactly. The cracks were in our language, our limited perspective, our snapshot of time. Knowledge is valuable, but only when it's understood holistically. You have to see the whole, not just the parts.
Listen for the symphony.
You have to listen to the symphony, not just the isolated notes.
Yeah.
When you see something in the world that confuses you, whether it's suffering or a logical paradox, zoom out. Look for the strings. Look for the conductor.
And that applies to more than just theology, doesn't it? It applies to how we judge people, how we judge history, how we understand the news. We're always seeing snapshots. We are always prone to the incoherence fallacy. We see a snippet of someone's life, a 10-second video clip online, and we judge the whole person. We condemn them.
We do. We love to isolate and condemn. But wisdom requires integration. It requires patience to see the larger context.
I want to leave everyone with a thought. A final little provocation to carry you through the week. We talked about how language breaks down when we try to describe the infinite. We talked about square circles.
Yes.
Well, here is the question. If our logic breaks down when we try to describe the infinite, if we are misinterpreting the stone because our words are too small, what else are we misinterpreting simply because our language is too small to hold it?
That is a dangerous question. In a good way.
What if love is bigger than our word for it? What if justice is more complex than our definition? What if beauty is something our senses can only barely register a fraction of?
What if we're only seeing in black and white when the world is in color?
What if we are walking through a world of symphonies, but we only have words for kazoos, and we spend all our time arguing about how the kazoos are supposed to sound?
Now you're sounding like a mystic.
Maybe I am. Or maybe I'm just trying to listen to the music.
Oh, fair enough. A good place to start.
Thanks for diving in with us. Until next time, keep listening.
And keep thinking.